We're about to get really busy and buzzing here at the exhibition floor because the network reception is about to start. And we're actually part of the entertainment of the network reception because we want to highlight for the next 30 minutes or so a very special and new initiative that's taking place at this SMR Congress this year. It's the Research Rally. And who better than explain a little bit about that than the initiators of the Research Rally? I'm joined here by John Polliston, who is a member of the SMR Program Committee for Congress right here. And next to you is Christopher Reed. You're one of the startup accelerators here in New Orleans. John, what happened yesterday here at Congress?
It was essentially a hackathon. I had this idea of getting some researchers in a room from around the world and seeing what they could do in a day with a research brief. And SMR were actually interested in working a bit more closely with some startups, and we thought, well, what better of an opportunity to give them the task to try and solve some problems for some research problems for some startup businesses.
So then you needed startups in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And Christopher is the man to head to. Christopher, what did you do in this?
So I run a company called LookFar, and we build startups and we build software for startups. And so we've been operating in the New Orleans area for the last several years. Our company as a whole is about 15 years old, but working with startups in New Orleans, we started a couple of years ago. And the folks from SMR approached us to help them find startups that were good to work with and had ideas that could have answers within the amount of time that was given.
Exactly, and you selected 4 companies, I understand. So
Yes.
they pitched their problem. Tell us a little bit, John, a hackathon for viewers who have no clue what that is.
Well,
what happens at a hackathon?
Well, it's the idea of putting a problem on the table that people have to solve there and then with the resources that they had. And it's obviously quite a common thing in the tech area where you get technical people and given have to write a bit of programming in the course of a few hours. Well, we thought we've got some researchers here. Let's set them a research problem. Let's actually give them a task to write a research solution and pitch that back to the
Startups.
The startups, and explore what we could deliver in a day.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a one day. It started at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
They were pitching at 5:30.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just talking, right? Because I went into the room. There were some great facilities to actually get some stuff done. Tell a little bit about that.
We provided them some opportunities to create some surveys, some real surveys, and send out to our panel. We have a panel of respondents around.
When you say we, you mean at
I work
Lightspeed,
for Lightspeed,
right?
yeah. So we offered them access to our panel, and so each of the teams actually created a survey and fielded it there and then over the course of the day. They got the data back within about an hour of the fielding, and they analysed it and then presented back some of the learnings and findings back through to the startups as part of their. This is our story of what we could offer you.
Exactly. Well, and our plan was to go on the record and actually give you an opportunity to kind of see what market researchers can do in one day if they put their minds together. And I was in there yesterday, and it was a great international group of people, right?
It was,
people from all over the world.
A complete people from Nigeria, from China. Across Europe, it was an amazing day, and sharing ideas and experiences from around the different parts of the world, and I think that really helped to improve the depth of sort of ideas that came through the process.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, and if you're wondering who else is here at the table, on the far end is Marcel van Overveld, who you've come to know as our social media moderator. He's moved to this table to keep an eye on anything happening on #SMRTV, right? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Shout out if something interesting pops by, because he had to free up his space because we created our little mini stage. Because how it worked yesterday, the teams had to pitch their ideas back to the startups, and then there was a vote on who the best pitcher was. And we got for you, well, we did some curation, so we're not giving you all pitches, but we give you actually the 2 best, the runner-up and the winner. And we're actually going to let you find out what you can find out in one day with a real life problem of a startup here in the New Orleans area. So with no further ado, let's switch that cam to Arthur Yu. He's from HCR in China. And he and his team worked on a problem solving case for Popular, right? And I think, Arthur, you should tell us more about what that was all about and tell us your 5-minute presentation of your findings after one day of research. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Gary. My name is Arthur. I came from HCR China, and it's my great honor and pleasure to share with you our finding and case for this very interesting startup business, Popular. Popular is a software that's designed for the social network for your dogs. So think about it. So before I come to the content, I would like to give special thanks to Lightspeed, because our finding is based on more than 260 surveys, effective responses, just within an hour using Lightspeed platform. So since it's an ESOMAR Congress, so let me start with one question. So how many of you actually have your social network software? I think 100%. Most of you have this. However, how many of you give this same service to your dogs? According to Harry, which is the owner and entrepreneur for the Popular, only 3 or 4% of dog owners have this for their dogs. So this is actually something that we need to change. We did a survey, and the good news is actually the dog owners actually realize that their dogs need that kind of social network, because it's proven that if you walk your dog alone, it's not very good for your dogs, and it's much better if you can have your dog play with other dogs. It's much better for the health and the behavior for your dogs. So actually, we found that 100% of dog owners, they think they love their dogs, and the dogs need a friend too. And also they share photos of dogs and they follow their dog profiles. So this is actually a good news we find. But we also find some barriers, like dogs may like social, but the dog owners may not. So we need to focus on the feeling of that person instead of just because in the end, it's the person who control control and keep the app. And we also found another barrier that only less than 20% of dog owners, they go to dog parks, and the rest of them, they go to just a neighborhood, less natured place. So, so this leads directly to Harry's problem, is how to effectively expand to other cities. So the answer is clearly that we need to focus on these cities with higher penetration of dog parks. Okay. However, we think the fundamental issue is lines that we need to make that app much more useful. So we should add more functions. I think a social network for dogs is a very good starting point of acquiring these dog owners. However, if we add more functions like integrate more events, knowledge, in terms of gather interest, in terms of focus on the features, whether, for example, a restaurant is dog friendly or not. So this kind of information is and functions are very useful to keep these dog owners, and it naturally will make the market expansion more effective and more efficient. So this is pretty much what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Right, give him a big round of applause. Very brave to do this and repeat this here in the exhibition. Now let me take a step back, because here on the edge of our little studio is actually Harry that you referred to. You're the owner of Popular.
I am, yes. I'm the founder and the leader of the pack.
Exactly. And what exactly, Arthur is advising you to actually create a lifetime platform. Just tell us, what is it now? What is Popular now?
So Popular is an easy, safe, and comfortable way to connect with other dogs and dog parents nearby.
Exactly. And that should change, is the recommendation. So how useful are these recommendations for you as a startup owner?
So it's really helpful in terms of prioritizing our product roadmap. So today, Popular is a very easy way to connect and meet up. But we're sort of looking at what are the other ways in terms of our expansion strategy, like offering, the ways to be aware of other real-world events going on, special discounts and deals, and sort of grow out that sense of community as we expand from city to city. So looking at that data that supported sort of our hypothesis that people really prioritize, socializing their dogs, but also where else we can benefit that value.
All right. Hey, and just because this will be recorded, and maybe next year John is pulling off another hackathon, and they're going to have to recruit startups. So talking to your future startup colleagues, would you recommend any startups to participate in this SMR hackathon?
Certainly, it was a very new format, certainly to me, and so I think getting the team in the room and figuring out what we could accomplish in a short period of time turned out to be pretty awesome. Getting that amount of results so quickly that really was useful.
Was it worth your time?
It was worth the time. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much and good luck with the results. Yeah, I left you hanging there. Okay, so that was pitch number 1. That was actually the running up. That wasn't even the winner and it was already still pretty interesting, right? A social platform for dogs or for dog owners. Well, that must make you curious to the second pitch. The winner of the first ever, it's a historical moment, first ever SMR research rally. And this team is called Bloom. Well, let them introduce themselves. Let's hear the second pitch of the winning team of the research rally.
Thank you so much. We're super excited to be part of this first ever experience. Let's maybe just briefly introduce ourselves. I'm Julia from Insights Consulting, New York.
I'm Joyce from Skim.
All right. So it was a great project, first of all. So we really, we had a almost very easy challenge. But in order for you to kind of understand the context, let's maybe start with a question that we had to deal with. And the question was, how do you price a banking service for the underbanked? And maybe before we look at our answer, let's first kind of explain to you or share what underbanked means exactly. Nadine is going to share that with you.
Okay. Through a role play. Okay. Yeah, hello, is that Uber? Yeah, hi. I'm just trying to use your app, but I can't get through. Can you help me? Yeah, I've signed up, but I can't get through to a full sign up. No, I don't have a bank account. No, I don't have a bank account. No, I can pay in cash. I've got loads of cash. I've got loads of cash back home. I just can't. I haven't got a bank account. I can't do this. I can't sign up. It's not any of your business. I've got like 35 grand at home in cash. I'll pay you double, but I just want a lift. I can't get.
So imagine you find yourself in this situation, and you can probably understand that it's quite frustrating. And then also think about like how much you use your own bank account, like almost on your daily life. You use it every touch point. And I was really surprised to find out that actually for about 10% of the US population, the reality is that they don't currently have a bank account. And this is really where Bloom comes in.
Exactly. So Bloom, which is an idea by a great Sheena who you're going to meet in a second, is a mobile-based solution servicing the unbanked and the underbanked, which, to our shock, represent in fact 10% of the U.S. population. So Sheena asked us to look at her idea and to develop an understandable and profitable pricing model and figure out how to position it. So we needed to learn a lot about the unbanked and the underbanked reality. And while we were asking questions and figuring out what exactly the pricing model meant, we had an aha moment because we realized that pricing was not just influenced by the decisions we made in terms of setting up a pricing model for B2C, so for the audience of the unbanked, but a lot of it also had to do with how we tried to negotiate our position towards the banks. So knowing that was important because the biggest amount of revenue comes from the bank relationship, but if there is no good B2C model for the revenue stream, then there is not a good way to build the B2B model. So we started with the B2B model and we said, what is it that we need to understand in order to have the strongest and best negotiation possible when we start talking to banks and to social services in order to pull them in as our partners in this effort. And when we looked at the pitch that Sheena already had, we said, well, there's a lot already there. It's great because Sheena already zeroed in on very important points of the pitch, which are to make sure that we could make the bank more money and help them save money. And that has to do with, I'm not going to go into detail, but with lowering redlining fines, reaching an audience that was previously unavailable to banks, but also provide banks with more information about the underbanked and the unbanked segments. So that was one thing. But then we said, how can we further enrich this with additional points that could really strengthen the B2B negotiation? And 2 points we looked at were, how could we scope the market? So how could we really access this market in a way that was the most effective? Who should we start with in this 10% of the US population? And how could we prove that we knew the consumer better than any bank ever could? When we looked at the scoping and the segmentation and targeting strategy, we actually looked at what Sheena had already prepared. She had kind of a tree of prioritization for subsegments in that 10% of the US population. And we cross-checked her assumptions with data available from GfK, so secondary information. And we saw that, in fact, a lot of it was very well aligned. So all that was left to do was conduct a little survey to figure out how we could prove that we knew this consumer better than anyone else. Sheena had already done a lot of focus groups, which in fact gave her a laundry list of points that could really help build the value proposition for our consumers. But thanks to Alex at Lightspeed, we were able to also conduct a very, very fast survey, Gen Pop, across the US, to really zero in on what are the key drivers behind using a solution like Bloom. And we figured out that those were, in fact, the possibility of setting financial goals, number one. And then number 2 and 3, no hidden fees, but also the ability to unlock things that can allow you to enter society like everyone else. Like Nadine presented earlier, something as simple as using Uber, for example. We took a step further and we also figured out what it is that people don't need or don't want. And their top barriers that we found were that people don't want to pay to use their money, but also that they don't want to pay as much interest on using their money. So we really had to make sure that we took that into account. And that is how we came to figuring out the strategy for our pricing model, which didn't just have to be understandable, it had to be transparent. That was a big insight. We asked participants whether they preferred to pay in a monthly installment, a monthly fee, so something like a Spotify program, or to, on the other side of the spectrum, pay a fixed fee per transaction, like every text message you send or every transaction you make. And we found that there was a clear preference for a monthly engagement model. So really knowing every month very clearly how much you were going to spend. So that was our first point in identifying the pricing strategy. And then we looked at kind of the competitive set and we figured out that there are other players like Rushcard or Green Dot that are also on that side of the pricing model. So we understood that it was important to be better than them and to access the market in a freemium approach, and to then gradually, as you build trust with your audience, build a monthly fixed fee model that was still priced below the competitors, but that really added more value. Because in fact, it all boiled down to the opportunity of earning the trust of our underbanked segments, to then show them the value they have to the banking community, and to show them how, while they build their relationship with banking, we can build our relationship with them and ultimately provide more value for them. That was our idea.
All right, give him a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Great done. Very, very, very hard to do that and repeat that here in a setting where we're not in the hackathon, right? Let me quickly look at this glowing startup owner. You're Sheena, this is actually your company. How does it feel when you hear these very concrete and tangible tips?
It was very nice. And it was wonderful because a lot of them had one was from Europe and their banking system is totally different. So not only we get wonderful research, it was good to see how they viewed it because they're not around a lot of people who are unbanked and underbanked.
And are these tips actionable? Can you actually use them right now in your company? Have you used them? It's 24 hours later, so I mean, this is startup business, right?
Yes, it never stops. Actually, today I'm at the office and I'm going through things that we did yesterday. So yes, I mean the minute we got done, we're sharing the information and we're going to put that towards what we already learned and continuously move forward.
Now imagine this is going to repeat next year, and a potential startup is watching that, considering whether it's worth their time to actually join the research rally. What would you say to them?
Definitely come. It's well worth it because it's such a diverse group. Even though there are researchers, the startups are diverse, and then even within themselves, they're diverse. So it's wonderful. I loved it.
Great opportunity. Well, thanks. Thanks for being with us today also. Well, John, congratulations. This is
great,
all
yeah.
very positive news, right?
Yeah. I don't know, I thought the whole day worked just so wonderfully well. I mean, I was amazed what they actually learned and delivered back in the space of, 3 or 4 hours of actual delivery time. I thought it was just fantastic, yeah. And all 4 teams that worked on, every single one had some concrete research action solutions that I think will help build those businesses in a small way, help them move on. And it highlights the role that research can play for startups.
Even in a few hours.
A very simple little forum I think could be very easily emulated, because these are going to be the businesses of the future that hopefully will then come back to us as an industry.
So Christopher, what were your observations in there? You work a lot with startups, you see other events and hackathons.
It's interesting. The thing with startups is they all know that they need to use market research because the dollars that they raise are so precious. When you do a startup, every penny really counts, so much more so than when your business is mature. And I think this did several things. One was demystified to a certain degree what market research actually does and means, because we say it a lot, but for startup owners and founders, they may not actually know exactly.
It's not just Googling what people think.
It's not just Googling, yeah. It's a lot more to that, and it's a lot more than just a single survey. It's the thought that goes into the questions and all of those things, which I think is valuable for any business owner, but especially new business owners, to learn and to see in the practical how it's actually used.
All right, well, great reflections from the startup side. Let's see if we can still catch up with our participants. So, ladies, congratulations again. Well pitched, delivered. Let's see if step in a little bit. Could you share a little bit about the experience? Because obviously you were our guinea pigs. You were the first group who actually responded to John's call to action and participated all day in that meeting room. Again, this is going to go on air. If people have to sign up for the research rally next year, tell them a little bit. What is it like to actually participate in this? How did it feel?
Well, for me personally, I actually also really learned a lot from the experience, like more about the US banking system. But I think it was really nice to see that actually a lot of work was already done. And for us, it's where we could add value was really to help prioritize. And that's what we do, or I do a lot. Like I work a lot with numbers, is to really help to say what are the priorities. And I think also we kind of put on a question fire at the beginning, first hour and a half, but to really map out what are the different things, because there are so many aspects that we didn't actually even cover now that we talked about. But it's just really nice. Yeah, I was super excited about it yesterday. I spoke to a lot of people about it.
Nice. Well, it's amazing how much you can do and find in one day. Nadine, would you participate again in next year's research rally?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a really interesting experience. We had, so I'm client side and I focus a lot on television and how that works. And it was really interesting to hear about Sheena's business and understand a whole different area that I don't experience in my day-to-day. So it was a really fun process.
It was worth your time.
Definitely worth my time.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming here and sharing your experiences. Well, I guess, John, there's only one thing left to do, right? Take the camera and make a very good commercial recruiting thing for next year.
We've got a slightly more elaborate plan for next year. My idea is like a research World Cup and get teams competing from different parts of the world. And upper scale, we could have, I was thinking about having some sort of qualifying matches over in Europe and Asia, and the winners of each qualifying maybe come over to Congress next year. That's my more ambitious plan.
All right, and so this is going to be the Research Rally program with local...
So we can work with startups around the world. That would be my plan.
Cool, cool. Well, for people who get excited about this, where can they find you and reach you?
SMR, yeah, or John Poulston.
Exactly. And look for Research Valley.
Yeah, Research Valley. Well, yeah, we'll take it from here.
Okay,
Yeah,
John,
yeah,
well, thank you very much for sharing. Christopher, thank you very much for all your time and effort to actually recruit these guys. Hopefully with this material, it's going to be easier to do that next year.
Definitely. Great, and thank you.